Good evening, everyone. Today is September 18th, another session of our daily trade recaps and teachings. So, before we start today, I just want to go through this. I always talk about A plus setups, B minus setups, B plus setups, C and D setups. So while it's a lengthy discussion, I will make a detailed list of all my setups and what goes behind those setups. But what I want to talk about at high level is whenever you are trading with the trend, that is an A setup for me or a B plus setup for me. And whenever I'm trying to trade against the trend, that is usually a B minus setup for me, C or D setups, because I have to fight against the trend. Then daily chart patterns, catalyst, news, flow, theme, sector. Lot of those things, help us make it a better setup. Identify more in detail, like is it A plus, A minus. For example, if the chart is at all-time highs and it's bullish breaking out on a good earnings or a good news, that's an A plus setup because there's no resistance. Daily is good. There's news. The trend is higher. So that is just an example, and that's an A plus long setup. And it can be either A plus long or A plus short. And intraday, that's how I grade my setups. Like today, I will show you Tesla was Apple was an A setup, A minus setup or A setups, and AMD was a B minus long setup, which jobbed us in the morning. So I will show you how that happened and how that worked. So yeah, so today is all about how to manage a choppy morning, how to manage and preserve capital on a low range day. This is what we will talk about. We will talk about few losses in the morning. We'll talk about importance of staying small size at the open, waiting for trend or waiting for your system, and not blindly just adding anything anyone adds or following others. So we'll talk about all that today. Definitely it was not like a huge day that just like Friday. If not for Apple and Marna trade, I would have been red today because the morning was not really that great. Had small scratch losses, but we turned back. And I never really sized big today because we have FOMC coming on Wednesday. So due to FOMC, the market is in a lot of uncertainty. But just proud that we did play our system, we did respect our rules, we did stick with our tested systems, be it a Wix SPY strategy today for long short bias, or be it a short setups when we were shorting Marna today, right? Or we were trading Meta today. The big focus I will also talk about is the Meta and AMD trades today. I think I did tweet about that as well in the morning, that's my focus. Why, we'll go through how AMD gave us like quick losses in the morning and how we tried to cover it back. So we'll talk about that as well. So let's see here. So today morning, Meta versus 300, AMD were 100 were my two trades that I was trying to accomplish today. And then we will talk about how our Tesla levels. We'll talk about our NVIDIA trade, how the NVIDIA levels and NVIDIA trades were spot on today. I will talk about that, and then we'll go through everything. All right, guys. One thing to note, guys, my swing videos and swing chart reviews will start as I see the market in a developing good way. Maybe we see good move after FOMC, then I will start talking about some swing setups. So just waiting, being patient, no rush. As long as the environment doesn't show me to trade good swings, I'm patient, but I do plan to do a lot of videos on the swing setups and overall market analysis with you guys as well, because I have got a lot of requests to do more of that market analysis and SPY and futures and other swing macro environment. All right, guys, let's start. So this morning, when I first got to my desk, the first two news that I saw, and I always look around what's going on, Tesla and Apple. What was the news on Tesla? Tesla news was Goldman Sachs cuts and estimates on Tesla following demand analysis that Goldman Sachs revisited their EPS estimates. They lowered their EPS estimates. They're saying Tesla earnings will be lower as we move forward. So that was news on the Tesla. And as I also tweeted, when these higher tier companies, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, when these companies say something, the market has some impact. When Goldman Sachs or Bank of America or JP Morgan, when these companies say something, these stocks move, and they do have an impact. Rather than the smaller companies like Truist or Benchmark or a bunch of others. There's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. This is how these companies are. And then Apple had some news that most of the analysts were saying, because the Apple iPhone orders, the demand is surpassing the expectation. So these two news were on top watch. As you see, I put that news right at half an hour before market open. Went through all news as well. There was not really much outside our main marketplace. DoorDash, Micron, Disney. I was looking at a bunch of things, but nothing was giving me strong setup to trade with, except Tesla and Apple. I did focus on Apple right out of the gate. Traders in the room were trading Tesla. Bitcoin was on my watch. I did not end up do anything with Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin just flushed after that. So a bunch of names are over on watch list. ARM was on my watch list. I wanted to short it, but I did not watch it. And then MSTR, PayPal, LI, Dash, Micron, and Netflix, Apple, Tesla were the main plays for the day. So let's see. Okay, and the levels, guys. Today the levels just killed it. As every day, I shared my levels 15 minutes before the market open. The best trade on the levels was Nvidia. What level did I give? You can see here 420, and Nvidia bounced from 420 right at the first candle, pushed down. Anybody who was shorting it, trapped the shorts, pushed back it. And this is what I call a B minus setup, because it's against the trend, but definitely there is a support level and it's extended, and definitely it can bounce, right? When you see that support level bouncing, you can start 1/3 of your size, and once it reclaims the EMA clouds, you can add into it, and then it goes for the full gap fill, right? So my commentary was on that Nvidia was the gap fill was my commentary, right into the gap, has some room in the gaps, right? So that's what my comments were, and that it holds this 432 pullback and has the room into the gap, and that's what Nvidia did, right? That was not my my personal trade, but I know people who nailed it. So it turned from a B minus. Once it got over here and here, it turned to an A setup, because earlier we were playing against the trend, but when it changed the trend, it became A setup. But it filled the gap, right? So that's what I said in the morning at 10 a.m. And by mid of the day, it filled the gap and some more. So you can see my 420 level on Nvidia right on spot. So that was something that I wanted to share. So that was good. Let's see what else. One thing. Okay. So just wanted to point out the importance of levels, guys.
AVGR.
And I also, before I go to other trades, so Marna was a big short for us today. As most of you know, I have my scanners. I have my scanner that's free for everyone in my community. The scanners that I made, spent years building them. So I have a scanner which is called opening power. It looks for anything which is making big move at huge volume right at the open. So opening power, Marna came on my scanner at opening power, and right after the open, it came on it right after like 10 minutes. I saw that, and then I was watch any big bounces. Then I saw this gap on Marna, 108 to 105.40, and then I said keep watch, and we hit it short. I was on the voice, and my first target was 105. You can see next target 105 and 103.87. So it my first target 105.09. Then my second target was 103.87, and you can see it hit my second target as well. So you can see both my targets hit, right? And it was still riding the downtrend. We caught it somewhere here, and the break of this was the add or the bounce into the EMA clouds. You can risk this. You can risk this high of the 10-minute candle. You are waiting for this 108 break on the 1 hour channel, and then you fade it all day, right? So this was a good trade which actually turned my day nice and green. But let's go back and see what else we were trading and what were our morning losses. So as soon as morning, so we made a plan what we're going to do. We had a plan on Meta. We were watching Adobe. I personally did not do any Adobe. AMD was our plan was versus 100. Netflix, the plan was 395. So these were 4-5 things which I was watching. So the market today was gap down. So were we going to get a gap down bounce or gap down fail? So that was our setup this morning. So market was the gap down setup today. All we had to do was to see, is it going to be a gap down bounce, what personalities it's going to show, or it's going to do gap down fail. So 2 trades I took was I longed QQQ right out of the gate. If I look at 2-minute chart, then I can show you, because so right out of the gate I took the QQQ, right? Because I saw the strength of QQQ trying to move over that certain level. So I was long. Apple I was long because it had the news. Then Apple was having this big push over the pre-market high breakout. This held and it big. So Apple these were about too long, and then I was also long AMD, right? So Apple, let's just talk about our Apple trade. So 10 a.m. first push in target was Apple. My first target was 178.40. So Apple, my first target was 178.40, and it gave us more than 178.40. So we took some off, and then rest was held 512 EMA clouds from morning idea. Now we watch the pullbacks, right? So that was the plan. So if you see, it pulled back, held this level, candles. We were going to give it a little bit more room to EMA clouds, but it held 512 EMA clouds rather than pulling back to 3450. And then it, so I even put a recap there, and look at the level I gave. My resistance level was 176.1 in my morning Excel sheet. So the good thing is many traders didn't wait on me. They were trading based upon the levels we discussed in pre-market. And that's how the Apple was, 176.1 in the morning breakout. And you can see here, Apple was all day trade. So there was a lot of selling over 179. This is where I said everybody to finally lock some. So Apple is still strong. We'll see how it does tomorrow. I did not want to swing anything heavier into FOMC, but Apple was the winning trade of the day as well. All right, so let's look at our AMD. So AMD was the one which kind of chopped us out. So I was long first on AMD right at the gate. I was long, and then it was a B minus setup, right? Why was it B minus? Because under the EMA cloud, what is our first rule out of the gate? Anything under the trend is a B minus. So I size according to the B minus setup. So then I size according to B minus. When it rejected the EMA clouds, I cut it. I turned bearish because it's rejecting the EMA clouds, right? And I was waiting to see what 100 does. Then it broke 100, and at that time I took a short because it broke 100. But as soon as I took it short, so right away it reclaimed 100. And it kind of squeezed. It trapped all the shorts like me. and then at the same time Nvidia was squeezing the semi sector. The whole semi sector was squeezing, guys. You need to keep eyes on the whole semi sector. You need to keep eyes on what your sector is doing, right? You can't just chase one thing blindly. If I'm shorting AMD, I need to look at market. What's market doing? What is SMH, the ETF for the semiconductors, doing? What is Nvidia doing, right? So anyways, so we took a long, yeah, I took a loss on the long, we took a short, took a loss on the short, right? Even though it was a B minus long setup, I should have waited on AMD because it was a B minus long setup. That's what I'm trying to stress. Was not an A plus. Like, look at the difference between Apple and AMD, right? So why was it difference? Look at the difference. Apple and AMD. Apple A plus long, AMD B minus long against the trend. So you need to identify how you are longing it. So well, I had the loss, and later in the day when AMD started pushing again, I got back into the AMD. I used the same risk, and then when I got back into AMD, this was the targets I was giving. My whole commentary on AMD is right here. So if market really pushes AMD, we can see 103. Meta trend night, that was different trade on Meta, and then we were talking about 102.20 resistance, and 102.46 was my next target. AMD next target 102.46, right? And I said, if you are day trading AMD, it's make sure you take some off on the way because it's choppy. Then it was holding trend. Middle of the day, I told my community it's holding trend. Target is 103, 30 cents from 103, and it hit our 103 by 1 cent, and we took profit. And then I polled my community. Lot of the people re-entered and they got green in AMD. You can see. And most of them were green from the morning call because they traded better than me, right? So they were more 44% of the wrong. But there are still some who got chopped, like I got chopped, and they did not re-enter. So I just wanted to talk about this particular trade. Why we know it's a B minus. We have to size small. We have to look at our size should be such that $1 move up and down doesn't panic us. So we can manage it well. That's fine. We lost some, but when we got back in, we still used the same risk, $100. When we got back in at 101, we risked $100. We still made, $2 on the up. Or even if we made $1.50, we recovered that loss, right? So AMD was the trade. That was the trade on AMD. Morning losses on AMD. But we did win on our QQQ. So I was long on QQQ. I already showed you the QQQ long. First trade is the morning trade. That's a different trade. And then we look at the trade for all day trend, midday trades, power hour trades. So you look at different setups in a different ways, right? So then there was my all guidance all day on SPY QQQ. When this QQQ broke out of this area 37.20, it gave a little bit push, but overall it was always all day having problem at this level, and we will watch it tomorrow. And oh yes, so I alerted when VIX broke 14. Breakout of VIX out of 14 today. When it broke out 14, there was a big fade and nice trade by few people in the room. I think it was Eddie, they followed that VIX, right? As soon as SPY broke down here and the VIX broke up, there was a nice scalp on SPY short. So these kind of trades are which we do in the midday, right? So anyways, so Apple win, AMD loss in the morning, some recover later in the day. And let's look at Meta. And Meta was also, I was in and out few times because Meta was doing the same thing. And as AMD. So Meta was scalping versus 300 in the morning. It pushed up. Meta 300. I said I will be long versus the 300. I longed at the open versus that 300. It was pushing nicely. it was holding its trend nicely, and but when it pulled back, market was pulling back. Then I had cut some 20% position here, and then I was not like, although I should have held because it held this level from yesterday, I was just not liking the environment of market, and I cut Tesla because it was testing 300, even though it did not. So I wouldn't say I followed all the rules there, but because of the AMD loss, I was trying to manage my risk. So I cut my Meta there. But then then I again saw them buying the Meta 300 again, right? They started to buy the Meta 300 again. Then I got back in again. Remember, my long bias was in the morning versus 300, right? So then I got back in again, only shares, and then Meta finally pushed from that 360 level to 303 level. So I got some green on that Meta trade, and then Meta pulled back. Then I got out of my full position. So Meta was overall a green trade, but it was very choppy action. I will revisit again Meta tomorrow versus these same levels. So you can see the Meta action versus AMD. So Meta was frustrating in the morning, but it was not really a losing trade depending upon where did you take an entry. 300 was your risk. Okay. So you saw my tweet that my focus was Meta and AMD. And then I already showed you Marna trade, which was a news-based scanner catch. Then, okay, let's look at Tesla, guys. So Tesla, again, from our level, the Tesla, right from our levels that I shared in the morning. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Tesla, the level I gave everyone was 270 and 71. So I was so proud of everyone. They were, and also I shared the news, right? What was the news? Goldman Sachs. The news was Goldman Sachs. So that Goldman. So how was it A plus setup? You had a news. You had a bearish trend. Market was bearish. It was breaking the supports, pre-market levels and yesterday's levels, and all you had to do was short, right? So clear levels 270, 271, but for bullish buyers, it has to get over the EMA Clouds. And as soon as it started to fade, it was heavy short under the EMA Clouds. It was still heavy, although my target was 262. It held that support once, twice, and thrice. It was a good morning 10 a.m. trade, and not so much after that, but it was a good morning trade, A plus setup in the morning fade. So 10 a.m. short. So that was Tesla. Then let's see. Yeah, there was not much, just usual Monday talk. We were looking at a bunch of stuff all day. There was a recap on Tesla, the levels 270, 271. So that was the Tesla. Let's see if I can find something else. Okay. So alright guys, I guess that's it for today. As long as you guys understand what was the setup today, what was the market personality today, what is a B minus setup at the open, and what's an A plus setup in the open, please watch this video again. It will definitely help you to manage the risk at the open. And about the market, guys, overall, right now we'll see what happens tomorrow, FOMC on Wednesday. If it trends, maybe sometimes the market trends a day before when we say, oh, something has leaked. If it trends up or down, whatever it does, we will be on top of it. Ideally, I would like to see the trend same side what develops, right? Today was not great setups in the morning, but hopefully we have a better day tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Comment on anything you need under my comments. Join our trading community to trade together and learn, and then go to my website, a lot of information there. And please like, share, and keep encouraging me, and I'll be back with more lessons and more trade recaps tomorrow. Goodbye.